Welcome to the milk bar. 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 Welcome to the milk bar.
Welcome along to episode 523 of the Milk Bar. Jason Forrest here with you as ever, and coming up on the show we'll be chatting to Vicky Wright, daughter of the legend Billy Wright, all about the talk she's going to be doing about her dad. Shappi Khorsandi lets us know about how we enjoy our toys even as adults, particularly as we look forward to the film Toy Story 4, which is out in cinemas at the moment. Kenton Hall from the band Ist tells us about his music and his book Bisection. We'll be finding out about the Wildlife Photographer of the Year exhibition, all 100 photos currently on display at Wolverhampton Art Gallery. Gemma Ward, the manager of the competition, will be telling us all about that as she joins us from the Natural History Museum in London. But first of all, Educating Rita is at Wolverhampton's Grand Theatre from the 8th through to the 13th of July. Rita is played by Jessica Johnson, who joins me now on the line. Hello.
Hello, you all right?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm enjoying the sunshine in Exeter.
Well, there you go. And then not long before you're in Wolverhampton, which no doubt will be sunny for you too, fingers crossed.
Oh, I hope so. I do hope so.
That'd be good. So, I mean, Educating Rita is an absolute classic film, but it was a play before it was a film, and Willie Russell is the man behind the story, and you get a great time telling that tale on stage.
I do, yes. I get to play the lovely Rita. I've got it's like a long-term relationship that I've had with Rita, and I know this is the same for Stephen. I think we were both about the same age, although different decades, when we first read Educating Rita.
Yeah.
So I do. I've got a really close personal relationship with her.
With the way this works on stage, it's slightly different to the film anyway, isn't it? Because it's a two-header on stage.
It is. It's just a two-hander. It's me and Stephen on stage, and yeah, it's all set in one room as well. So it's what's the word? Episodic. I think that's the word for it. And you see kind of, it's like an academic year. So you see the journey that these two characters go on in their relationship as well.
In the shape of tutor Frank, things develop in a way that Rita wasn't necessarily anticipating when she decided to go back to school in her 20s.
No, I don't think she does. I think it's just, a lot of it is about having choice, which she says, a lot towards the end of going, Frank gives her choices, and it opens up this whole new world for her, and you see her develop and change, and Frank doesn't take to it, and it's a little bit heartbreaking because it's a love story of sorts. And yeah, it's heartbreaking to see how the relationship changes as Rita changes and Frank sort of deteriorates and falls into a bottle, unfortunately. But it has a bittersweet ending. I wouldn't say it's an ending, actually. It's left open for the audience to wonder where these two characters go to after.
And that's quite nice, isn't it? Because you grow to love them through the play, and then you get to see that there is a future, sort of an imagining at the end of it. So it is nice that Willie's left it open like that.
No, I think it is, because I think it then poses more questions as well. You hope anyway, when the audience believe in that it asks more questions than it answers them, if that makes sense. Which is good. It's about class. It's about education and how it can completely change life. It certainly changes Rita's. Mm-hmm. And I know myself, I was a mature student. I didn't go back until I was well in my 20s as well. And I know how it did. It completely changed my life. So it's an honour to be able to tell those sort of stories as a working class woman. And we know that Willie writes amazing women. It goes without saying, really. Yeah. He's a wonderful, wonderful writer for women.
Mm-hmm. And now there will be, following the 7:30 performance on Thursday, the 11th of July, a post-show Q&A. And what's it like doing that? Because I'm sure you've done those as you've gone across the tour, because it's almost a GCSE style text, isn't it? This sort of thing. It is a must-see and must-read play.
Absolutely. I definitely, when I first read it, when I think I was 14, because I was recommended it by a drama teacher. I mean, I spent all of my time in little church halls and like the Amateur Dramatic Society and everything, kind of learning my trade. And I remember asking the teacher if they could recommend a monologue, which was the better song to sing monologue from Rita. So I learned that, and I've known it since I was 14 years old. And yeah, it's that life-changing sort of moment when you read Willie's work and you go, oh, there's a working class voice in here. There's a woman that I recognise and that I can relate to, and really inspired me to act more, to do more theatre, and that I felt there was a place for me, in the industry of reading it.
And obviously, with your work on stage and your TV work as well, you've fallen into many different roles and different people over time. And is Rita one of your favourites?
Oh yes, absolutely. I really genuinely mean absolutely. I've done it before. You see, I did it at a regional theatre, Gala Durham, and I performed it there. But it was a very, very short run, which is how it kind of came about, because me and Stephen bumped into each other. I was doing a different show at the main stage at Live Theatre, and Stephen was rehearsing another show called Red Lion, and we crossed paths. And Stephen had asked me what I'd been up to, and I said Educating Rita, and I said, I'd love another run at it, a longer run, so you can really, get into it. And then I said, I think you'd make a really good Frank. And so he went away and he read it, and then he came back to me and he went, do you know what? Yeah, I think I would. Let's try and do something.
I mean, Stephen's work on stage and TV, if he hasn't done it, it probably wasn't worth doing. So this is another good one to see him in, isn't it?
Yeah, he's wonderful. I mean, just over the last year, because we continue to read, we both kind of auditioned together for David Pugh and Rachel Russell, Willie's daughter, in Bath. I've managed to see Stephen in a number of shows now. I saw him do Christmas Carol, I saw him do the Red Lion, I saw him do Art as well, and of course working with him now on Rita, and it's wonderful. It's a privilege. It's great being in a room with someone who's got so much just experience, and he's very skillful, and he's incredibly generous as well. So it's just been wonderful, and I've genuinely, I feel like I've learned a lot and improved myself just off being in a room with Stephen and Max, the director as well, who's native Northeast as well. And I've learned so much. I can't praise them enough. I really can't.
And what do you think you take away from it this time that's maybe a bit different to the first time you played her?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's funny because the original one that I did at Durham was it was set modern times, and she was an incredibly different Rita. So I don't know. Taken from this one, I think I don't know. I feel quite lucky, actually. I just feel lucky that I've been able to do this. I mean, you never know; it might come back again, for another tour next year, hit a few new theatres. But I'm not quite sure. I don't think I've even contemplated that yet. I'll have to wait until we get to the end and see how I feel, I suppose.
And you'll really get to know her as she is in this particular version of the play. And
yeah.
And how do you think she differs from the screen, Rita?
Do you know, I haven't seen that film. I think it was one of them VHSs that we definitely had growing up, and I do, we didn't have many, but I do remember the ones that we did have, and I don't think I've really sat down and watched it since I was about, again, the 14, 15-year-old sort of marker. But so I wouldn't say. I mean, it would be very difficult to outdo Julie Walters, of course, but she's really one of my heroes.
Yeah.
So I hope that I bring her she's a different Rita, but she's still full of energy and heart, and I think that's why I love her so much. She's so passionate, about changing her life and about poetry, and I just admire her. I really do admire her, and she's very brave as well.
Well, we can see the poetry of Rita being on stage as she gets educated at Wolverhampton's Grand Theatre from the 8th to the 13th of July. It is on sale now. grandtheatre.co.uk or 01902 429212 for the box office. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the show.
Yes, do. See the show.
Jessica Johnson, a.k.a. Rita, when she travels around the UK. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers. Bye.
In a moment's time, we'll have a chat with Kenton Hall from IST. But first, let's take a listen to one of their tunes. This is Remington Steele.
Mother lectures on the perfect man, witty as Oscar Wilde, brilliant as Japan, with the charm of a rattlesnake handler. No worries through your bust, but he's got the taste of panty curtains when overtaken by animal lust. Wish I could be Remington Steele. I wish I could be Remington Steele. Mother says some changes must be music beats. Maybe then I would deserve some. Mother says that she's my biggest fan. I did it all to make you stronger, but I hope you understand. What do you tell your children how much I love them? With the poison still in your veins. I know blood is thicker than water, but it quenched your thirst just the same. Wish I could be Remington Steel. I wish I could be Remington Steel.
Ist with Remington Steel. More from them very soon. But first of all, Kenton Hall is on the line. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, and I trust we find you well.
As well as one can be in England in the middle of a very humid summer.
Okay, yeah, this is the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? It's not great
It
for
is.
you. But, however, the music is good fun, and you've got a book to talk about too. First of all, tell us a bit about IST.
IST, we started in 2001. We did 10 solid years on the road, made 3 albums of which we were very proud, and then we took a break to kind of jointly go off and do other things. Some of us, I went off and made a film, as did John, our bass player, and we've just been sort of dancing around each other towards getting back together and making some new music. And I've been making a solo album as well. So, yeah, it was a really good, solid 10 years of my life on the road with that band, and made some work we were really proud of.
And we'll listen to a few more tracks as we go through, but I'm very interested in hearing some of the solo stuff too, and maybe doing a comparison with that. So we'll get you back once that solo album is ready
Absolutely,
to go,
that would
if
be
that's
great,
okay.
yeah.
But meanwhile, I mean, you've been out on the road and with a band and your normal day-to-day life, and throughout all of this, you're bipolar.
That's true, yeah. It's something that I think because I'm lucky enough to sort of have words at my disposal, I feel like I kind of have a little bit of a responsibility to talk about it, because I know that a lot of people that suffer from the same things that I do don't have the capacity to sort of express it. And I think that's led to a lot of misunderstanding about what it is, what people are going through. And it's a part of me. It's not the defining part of me, but it does, obviously, as an artist as well, have a real influence on the way that you perceive the world, and that has an influence on the things that you write about, has an influence on the way that you perform. And I think more people need to kind of sort of be aware of kind of what's churning on the inside of people with bipolar disorder, because we see a lot of misconceptions in the press about what it is, or they concentrate on some of the most extreme negative things that have happened from people that are suffering. And it is, it's a sometimes debilitating disease, and it does have a real effect on your life and your happiness and your relationships, but it's not something that can't be survived, and it's not something you can't actually thrive despite. And I think that's kind of when I do talk about being bipolar, it's not just to sort of glorify that idea of sort of creativity and sort of mental illness going hand in hand. It's more because I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and I know that I've accomplished a lot of it through this lens of bipolar, and with the support of a lot of people around me as well.
And this is very much the focus of the book. He's talking about this. He's talking about the relationships with your 2 daughters that come through and their understanding of this too. And with everything that you've been through, it's the only way you have known. So it's the only, you can talk about this from a point of view, but you have always had this, whether it's been identified or and through highs and lows of it. So
that's it exactly. I mean, I think that's a really interesting point that you make, is that sometimes I'm asking for people to explain to me what it's like for people that don't have bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely seen a real difference between, say, the many years where I was not on medication because I was convinced it would sort of impair my creativity somehow. And the years that I've been on medication, I've kind of had to sort of rewrite the way that I look at the world, and that's been interesting as a writer as well. The book came out of just realizing that sort of my daughters, who are 17 now, I'm 16 when I was writing the book, have kind of shared this journey with me, and my entire parenting style and the relationship that we have has kind of had this fourth person alongside us all the time, this other sort of shadow version of myself that's caused by the illness. And I thought it was an interesting thing to dig into, because both sort of parenting and single parenting and living with mental illness are things that affect a lot of people, and they don't always see those stories represented. And I figured I have an odd story and I like telling odd stories, so I probably should put it between pages at some point.
I mean, with the bipolar condition itself, though, obviously that's often seen as multiple personalities. However, aside of that, though, and the way in which some people interpret it, do you feel that you're able to see the bigger picture that is you outside of the condition? Because I mean, the way my mind works, if I'm in a bad mood, I'm almost taking a step back and I can see that I'm in a bad mood. Do you look in on yourself in that way and see how you are with the condition?
I think probably more so sort of when I first went back on meds after sort of about 15 years of being unmedicated, I was able to step back for the first time in a long time, because you do feel as though you're kind of trapped in a maelstrom when you're actually suffering, because you are moving between extraordinary highs, but sometimes they spin off to psychosis, and extraordinary lows where you just lose all sense of yourself and your worth and your place in the world. But those become your standard, that's your norm. The in-between is so fleeting that even a sort of slightly good day becomes your best day ever, and then you start becoming manic again. So I think it is difficult when you're in the midst of it to step back, because you're used to it, but it's like anything else when it's incredibly painful, not just emotionally, but physically. It's a painful condition, but it's like anyone who's used to chronic pain, you start to accept it as being a part of who you are until you're sort of given a chance to kind of experience life in a different way. And sometimes I think it's something that wears you down over time, like any kind of chronic pain, because you get sort of fed up of being in that much distress. But yeah, it is difficult. I felt when I first went back on meds, I felt like my personality was being rewritten. A lot of things that I'd assumed were just how I was, and the way I reacted to things, some of the things that I sort of liked in the way that I acted, was proved to be symptomatic. Because once sort of some of that distress was shed away, there was a sort of a different version of me underneath that, it had the same memories and a lot of the same beliefs, but reacted very, very differently to sort of stimuli and to circumstances. And I think that was fascinating and frightening at the same time, to realize that sort of for 20 years of your life, some of what you thought your personality was just chemicals misfiring.
But taking a step back from the personality side of it as well, I mean, are the memories that you interpret differently now when you're on meds as opposed to when you're not?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest and obvious one is just not being able to track your decision-making processes when you look back. What made perfect sense to you at the time makes literally no sense to you. You don't know why you said a certain thing. You don't know why you did a certain thing. But also you start to see your relationships with others in a very different light. You can understand sort of in retrospect what someone was trying to say to you that wouldn't penetrate through whatever you were feeling at that time. And sometimes that's enlightening, sometimes it's disheartening, because obviously that can have a negative impact on the relationship, maybe to the point where that relationship doesn't exist anymore and it didn't have to be harmed in that way. But you do have to take it as kind of a learning process and try to move forward with it.
And how do you feel people treat you differently when you're on meds as to not on meds? Can you see that side of it as well?
I think I'm not sure that people treat me differently when I'm on meds. I think I'm more aware when I'm on meds of how my close friends tend to be artists and musicians and writers, and they are probably sort of intrinsically a little bit more aware of mental health issues because it's discussed in our community quite a lot. And so they tend to just treat you as you. But when you're sort of out in the wider world, or so you're doing a sort of a more corporate job, or you're working in an office, and people find out you have bipolar, then even the best person in the world, because they don't understand, there's a little flicker that goes across the eyes, that they're a little bit unsure. Sometimes they are frightened because they've heard something particularly negative. Sometimes it's just that fear of, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to speak to this person. I don't know how to treat them. What do I do if something goes wrong? And I think when I was in the midst of the illness, I was too busy being in the midst of the illness. And now that I've got that sort of distance from it a little bit, I notice the unconscious stigma of it a lot more than I did, because although I feel well in myself, just the very fact that I have the disorder sometimes makes people treat me differently. And I'm kind of old enough and mature enough that I can kind of go, interesting, more often than I do get upset by it. But there are times when it's disheartening, when you're trying to make a point, or you make a point in a particularly sort of passionate way, and you can see people thinking, there you go, there it is. There's the bipolar coming out. And you're like, no, I know what I'm saying. I'm making sense. This is true, but people sort of discount some of what you say and some of what you believe because of it.
And equally, anybody else that doesn't have bipolar, and certainly isn't presenting and being upfront about it, wouldn't be treated in that way. They might just be, they're in a bit of a bad mood, I'll come back to them later, or that's an odd way for them to look at it, but maybe I'll think about it. So it's sometimes
absolutely.
It's rather unfair to be treated in that way, purely because you have said sometimes I'm different versions of me.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps a lot of people from saying it out loud. Sometimes because they're worried about what other people think, but I think sometimes that people have trouble admitting it to themselves, because it's a lifelong condition. It's not going to go away. We're nowhere near a cure for it because they're not even sure what causes it. So to admit that you have a mental illness is quite a leap for a lot of people, and understandably so. But I think sometimes, if you had one leg, you wouldn't get very far telling yourself you had two. So I have mental illness, and everything I do has to work around that or go through it. What I can't do is let it stop me from doing things that I want to do, or from achieving things that I want to achieve.
And this can all be read about in the book. It is called Bisection. It's available to pre-order from Chinbeard Books, and chinbeardbooks.com would be the site for that one. Just search through for Kenton Hall and Bisection, and you can get more of this story and have a greater understanding of the world from your perspective and your perspective on that world.
I also hope it's funny.
Which hopefully it will be, because if you can't laugh about most things in life, you're really going to start to struggle, aren't you?
Absolutely. I try to approach it as if Douglas Adams was writing a book about mental health.
I think I would like to read that, so that sounds good to me. So we're going to take another track from the band. So we're going to hear again. What track would you like to take this time, sir?
Let's go with Headache, which was once featured on Homes Under the Hammer. There's an interesting trivia point for you.
I like that idea. Let's take a listen to it. Kenton Hall, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Everything you need to know about me is buried in the soul of my hometown. Golden wheat fields standing sentry over simple people pulling coal out of the ground. My head aches, my head aches, my head aches, my head aches. Sunbaked dust lies heavy on one half of Main Street as a downpour floods the other side. Powder blue flat trouser legs rush out towards the gathering storm and straddle a divide. My head aches, my head aches, my head aches. Try not to think about it. 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 Bruises close a child's eyes till all that's left is thunder and those footsteps in the dark. Whatever's on his breath tonight, one day he'll the bite, but I will always hear the bite. My head aches, my head aches, my head aches, my head
New research has revealed that the Brits are a nation of big kids. We all love our toys, and particularly with the excitement around Toy Story 4 being released, a study by Europcar is telling us that we actually want to relive our childhood pretty much every day. Somebody I'm not entirely sure has grown up is Shappi Khorsandi, who joins me on the line now. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for noticing.
Well, you're as bad as me, to be fair. We do like to have fun, and very often into adulthood, we do retain some of our toys that we enjoyed playing with as a kid.
We do. The Europcar survey unearthed the fact that 70% of men keep their favourite toys, and women aren't far behind with 61%. So it sort of goes to show that we don't really change, do we, as adults? And we're the same people we were at 7, but we've just learnt not to throw things at people.
Well, maybe not all of us have. But
maybe not all of us, yeah.
I was playing with some Matchbox toys when I was tidying some stuff up at my mum and dad's last weekend, and they are there, they are retained. Okay, my nephews have been playing with them as well, but the important thing is I can still go back. But we don't get much better when it comes to buying ourselves toys, because we buy ourselves gadgets, which really are just a pseudo toy that we can look a bit more grown up with when we're on the bus.
Do you know what? I feel that way because I bought a Hornby train set that my children sort of pointed out that, Mummy, you're not letting us touch it. I don't like them touching the Hornby set because I don't think they're as gentle with it as I am, and I've had to admit that, yes, I did buy that for myself.
It is your toy.
Well, I never had, when I get the violins out, we never had money for that kind of thing when I was a kid. So a Hornby train set was this unattainable thing when I was a kid, and so yeah, I did buy myself one as a grown-up.
So I was lucky enough to have a Hornby train set, but it was the basic pack, and so when the royal wedding train was going round, they didn't get much scenery, I can tell you that much.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They never look out the window anyway.
Well, no, I suppose this is it. Yeah, that's the way it goes. But, I mean, there's some great stuff that's come out of this research as well, particularly when it comes to what the kids are looking for. And they're saying they'd like things like a safari adventure.
Fancy that, safari adventure. And also 15% have said they want to follow in Buzz Lightyear's footsteps and travel by spaceship as opposed to car. Well, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I found quite heartening about it was that, we worry so much about kids not using their imagination now and being much more into gadgets than anything else. But in the Europcar survey, 28% of kids said that they missed their toys the most when they went away. So that's a high number than family members and friends. So every cloud.
Yeah, they do like to play with the good stuff. But, I mean, the other worry is you rent a car. Europcar are going to get you wherever you're going for your bit of a summer break if you don't normally have a vehicle to use of your own. Make sure you get the kids' toys back out of it, or there'll be all hell to pay. You'll be ringing up Europcar going, I've left Buzz in the back of the van. What can we do?
No, that's okay, because Buzz can make his own way home, thankfully. Because I believe everything I see in the films. As far as I'm concerned, Toy Story is a documentary.
Naturally, yeah, and with Woody's tattoo on the bottom of his foot, it just shows that he's up there and happening just like the rest of the hipsters around town.
Well, it's so, it's funny you mentioned Woody, because Woody was a big part of my son's childhood, and he's 6 years older than his sister.
Mm-hmm.
So now he gave Woody to his sister, and now my 6-year-old daughter, she very generously gave me Woody
Oh.
the other day, and I just adore the fact that she thought she was giving me the greatest present. Mummy, very solemnly, Mummy, you can have Woody in your room now if you like. So Woody lives in my room.
And you just, when you're asleep, he could be wandering around anywhere. Make sure you keep him under control.
Yeah, I have security cameras all over my house to keep an eye on Woody.
So basically, you're trying to make Toy Story 5 with your security cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I have got to say, between me and you, I always preferred Buzz Lightyear. Now, children are quite even on this. 29%, the survey said, chose Woody as their favourite adventure buddy, and 27% said Buzz. I think Buzz would be the one that would take you up a mountain, abseil you down the other side, but Woody would be the one wanting to get all deep and meaningful. And on holiday, I kind of prefer adventure.
Let's go for it. The adventure, the chat, and having wings and being able to fly. I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so looking forward to the film. It's one of those, films that I'd see. I've got to stop myself seeing it on my own. Think, I better wait till the kids are free. So that's something that we can do as a family.
Go twice.
Maybe I should.
Go and see it on your own. No distractions. Sit back, tub of ice cream, popcorn. Enjoy the movie. Then take the kids out and have fun that way.
And no popcorn for them or ice cream.
Yeah,
carrot sticks. Absolutely.
Carrot sticks are the way it goes. I think that's an entirely sensible way of enjoying yourself at the cinema. Once you've driven there in your Europe car as well, so that does the job. Where can we go to find out more about this great survey and how much we love spending time with our toys?
Okay, you can go to europecar.co.uk/Toy Story 4, and there's all the information about the survey there, along with loads of other things that will be very useful.
And some fab pictures of your pin-up Buzz Lightyear.
Yes, hopefully. We're getting married. Oh, I've gone too far into this.
And
okay.
Yeah, and you're giving the game away now. There'll be broken-hearted people across the UK. Shappi Khorsandi, thank you for joining us. Have a great summer and make sure you have a fun time with the kids.
Will do. Take care.
More music from Ist now. This time, This Must Be a Desert.
Well, can you pin on the moment this occurred? Well, you used to break my heart in two. Now you're just on my nerves. We are husbands in the closet, and the baby's on its way. And I'm waiting for a tear to drop, for all we pissed away. And this must be the desert, 'cause my eyes are dry as dirt. And the only thing I'm clinging to's my shirt. Well, no tourists come to gaze upon this edifice we built. 'Cause time's done its worst in it, has crumbled into sits. Oh yes, I can hear a ringing, but it sure ain't wedding bells. I promised I'd always remember you, baby, but I never said how well. And this must be the desert, 'cause my eyes are dry as dirt. And the only thing I'm clinging to's
This must be a desert from Ist.
They often say that Billy Wright and Joy Beverley were the Posh and Becks of the day. Well, in fact, it was really the other way around, because Posh and Becks are merely starting to emulate some of the fantastic success and the wonderful personality that those two displayed across the board in the wonderful world of football. Of course, Billy Wright, captain at Wolves and England, and did so much great work for the British game. I'm joined now by his daughter Vicky, who is currently working on a Kickstarter to make sure we keep that memory alive. Hello.
Hello, Jason. Hello, nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too. Obviously, in the city of Wolverhampton, Billy Wright is a name that we all know and love, but it is across the UK and across the world that he is known for his part in football.
I know, and it's overwhelming still for me. I did an interview the other day with somebody from Sky News, and he said to me, what was it like growing up? When did you realise your father was so famous? And honestly, Jason, I don't think it was until he died. I didn't realise the love and the legend that he was. He was just my dad to me. And I promise you he was the best one of those as well. But when it all happened, the fact of the history books he's written in the history books, he was only Wolverhampton's only son. He's still there. Everybody touches his boot when they go to the game, even the away people that come. He's this legend. And I always wanted to sort of honour that and do something to represent that from my point of view, because he wasn't just the footballing legend to me. He was a dad too, and there's so much to dad that I want to put out there for everybody to hear, you know, and now I'm doing it, and I'm excited about it. And so I've just launched this Kickstarter thing to get it launched, and there's going to be a big launch at Molineux on the 5th of September. So it's all sort of taking off, and I just love everybody's support, far and wide, you know what I mean? But basically, pretty much where you're coming from in the Midlands and in Wolverhampton. Yeah,
I mean, you've already spent quite a lot of time and money getting to this point. 2 years you've been really starting to focus and pull this together.
Yeah.
And this is something, I mean, you say it's 25 years since your father's passing, isn't it? So it's so important that this story continues to be told, and that you get to tell it in the way in which only you can.
Yeah, and I'm really proud, you know, to be able to be the one that can do it. But it's also not just for my daughter and our family, but no one's heard the private side of Billy, you know? So everybody that sees him as this legend and this hero and this captain of Wolves captain, there's another side that I'd like people to know that was the man as well, you know what I mean? Because it's a fascinating combination that Dad had. He was vulnerable. He was just like all of us that had few, you know, little things that happened in life that were tough, and he didn't deal with them too well. And it's so fascinating to me. And also women, it's not just a footballing story. Actually, the women that have seen it think it's wonderful because there's a love story involved when he met Mum.
One of the biggest bands in the UK.
Yeah, female acts in the 50s. And theirs was the first Posh and Beck story, you know. But the way they met was so different because there was no paparazzi, there was no okay, there was no hello. It was just this sweet little romance. But there still was this thing of this footballing legend fell in love with this sort of big sort of pop star, and the combination of that and how they tried to keep it secret in their sweet little innocent way. And they went to the wedding because Mum had been married before, so it was a registry office in Poole. And so it was all very, and Dad was just on his way to the World Cup, so they sort of got this little date in really quickly in Poole. And they were driving there together in a little Hillman Minx, and they got to the venue, went into the start of where they were driving in to get to the church, and there was just complete traffic jams. And Dad thought, oh no, there's something happening obviously in Poole today. You know, this is ridiculous. What's all going on? Is there a fate, a Lord Mayor's show going on? What's going on? So he rolled the window down and spoke to a policeman and said, excuse me, mate. He said, we've got to get to the church. He said, what's going on? Have we picked it up? The policeman said, you're getting married, Mr. Wright. And so it got leaked. The guy that was marrying Mum and Dad had a friend, and he couldn't keep it to himself. He said, you'll never guess who's coming in on Saturday. He told somebody, so it got out. So little things like that. It's so innocent and so beautiful and adorable, you know, that it was an era that we don't live in anymore.
Mm-hmm. With the fame and the press and things that came from it, I know I've sent you some recordings that actually came from the Molineux collection that of records, which were actually your dad's collection that were actually donated to the club, and things like appearing on Down Your Way and a night out when Brian Johnson met up with them when they lifted the FA Cup. Yeah, all that sort of thing is part of the history, and there are little sound bites that you can pick up.
Yep.
But even then, there are so many things that you can no longer recreate. It's got to be from the memories, and that's again something else that you can share, like that story you gave to us then.
Exactly. And also the other thing is that obviously for the Wolverhampton supporters and the football fans is when they won the FA Cup in 49, which was such a huge day for Wolverhampton and the club, and they actually lifted that trophy, and Dad took it back, and they took it back to the city, you know, on a little bus. I've got found footage of him and all the team on the bus coming through, and it was packed with people, and they're on this little old bus. It looks like a noddy bus, you know. It's so ridiculously sweet and cute, and there's not one selfie. They're all just on the top of waving to everybody. There's not one selfie, not one mobile phone, and it's just so innocent. But it was a day that every Wolverhampton supporter will remember in history, when they brought the cup home, you know. And Stan Cullis says, "I'd like to introduce you to probably the most popular man in Wolverhampton," and the whole place goes, "Whoa!" And my little dad, 24 years old, steps out, you know. So.
Amazing times, amazing memories, and moving on to sadly the other end of his life. And just before the year before he passed away, there was the naming of the Billy Wright stand in his honour at Molineux. And that evening at Molineux, I remember so well the reception that he received.
Were you there, Jason? Were you there?
I was. I turned on the microphone, which he used to address the crowd that day.
Did you? Oh, that's lovely.
I did. He got a massive reception. There was TV coverage, and it was like very much a homecoming, as he was there to see the stand name for him.
Yeah. He was overwhelmed by that. He was overwhelmed. Still, again, as modest and humble as ever. He was like, "I am shaking like a leaf," he said, "to be here today, to open my stand. Playing for Wolves, playing for England, had nothing on this." That's what he said. Opening my stand. He couldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe that there was a statue 6 foot high at the ground. You know what I mean? He was so modest. And I was pregnant on that day, and I've got footage of that as well. And all I kept saying to him was, "Dad, can we just get off as quickly as possible?" But no, he had to shake hands with everybody in the front row all the way around the ground.
Amazing times, and an amazing man. And I know that through this Kickstarter campaign, you're also not only going to help share the story, but you're going to allow people to actually get part of that story as some of the perks of getting involved and donating cash towards this.
Yeah, and I just hope that people get behind me, because it means so much to me. And I know that he's loved so much out there, and I just, fingers crossed that we can get, all of us, get this back on track and get it out there for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah, well, so things like the memorabilia that's available. If you're pledging more than £5, it's a Billy Wright League Cup postcard, and these are the sort of things that your dad used to hand out, carry with them for when fans were there. And selfies weren't a thing back in the day, but collecting something like this from him would be an absolutely amazing treat.
That's right. He always had those in his pocket, in his car. I went with him to lots of different functions. There was always that little collection he had, because he was never ever not stopped, for autographs. And he'd get them out there, and he'd let them sign it to you. And of course, I've got all those. It's all personal stuff, and we've got a lot of personal stuff that, of course, we'd never ever dream of selling. Mm-hmm. So part of me doesn't want to sort of appear to be like selling off his stuff for money, mm-hmm. but there's so much stuff that is I'm fine with being shared. And it's little things like programs and teddies that were left outside, and pictures that I've got in Dad's collection that he saved. He just put in bags, really. I found all this stuff that he just thought, I don't know what to do with that. I'll put it in the little posters, wonderful things, and a couple of autographs that are so precious, So that's all there. If somebody that is a real supporter would like to just have a look at the page and have a look at it, and no matter how big or small, Jason, it would just be so appreciated.
Yeah, by making sure that you're part of the history, by helping to fund this, you can take part of the history home with you and treasure it the same way as you treasure the fond memories of your dad.
Exactly.
Where do we find the Kickstarter? What are we looking for?
Right. Go to Twitter, Vicky Wright, on Twitter, Vicky Wright on Facebook, and that's where you find it, I think. All on social websites, Instagram, I've got it on there. But Twitter, I think Wolverhampton are going to share it as well. Tomorrow I'm going to speak to them at Wall. So if you're on the Wolverhampton Twitter page, it'll be on there as well. It's just a click and you can see the rewards. If you don't want to be bothered with that, a tiny little donation. And I hate to ask like I'm begging, but Dad, he was captain of England and Wolverhampton captain. I swear the last paycheck he got was £40 the week.
The difference in wages these days is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
So it's not about money, but of course, he didn't leave anything because it was all from his heart. Everything he did was because he had the love of the game and the love of Wolverhampton. But now, if it can help us and me, then that's what we're doing it for, and Dad will be proud. I hope Dad will be proud of what I've done.
I'm sure he would, and so everything I've heard about him is a wonderful fella. I've sadly never actually met him that night at Molineux, but I did meet your mum at the memorial for him just over 12, 18 months later.
Yeah.
She was absolutely lovely at the time.
She adored him, as he did her.
We saw the outpouring of love for Billy and for Joy at that night itself, but Vicky, thank you for having a chat with us. Kickstarter.com. Look for the Billy Wright story, or look out for Vicky Wright on Twitter and Facebook. You can find the links on there. And I will share the links on our Facebook page as well to make sure that you can get involved, enjoy this Kickstarter, and help to tell the story of Billy Wright. Vicky, thanks again.
Jason, thank you too. Bye-bye.
Time for another tune from Ist. This is I Am Jesus and You're Not.
All you bloody sinners queuing up for benediction for a quick to my garment on the price in bits. Though you hang up on my everywhere like drool upon a bus, but I can get my underwear. If I can get my dad to slip. Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not. Tearing on your hair like amateur apprentice motor till you finally drown the whistle from the cool kid in the corner with the one eye on the column makes it one up on the wing sails. Cause the day for the motor man one day. I am Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not. I am Jesus and you're not.
Ist, I Am Jesus and You're Not, here on the Milk Bar.
Right the way through until the 1st of September, the Wildlife Photographer of the Year exhibition is on. Gemma Ward is looking after the whole thing as the manager and is here with me now. Hello.
Hello.
So, an amazing exhibition. I've had a very brief look round and there are some fantastic pictures on show.
I know, each year, it's in its 55th year, this competition, and each year it just gets better and better when you think it can't. It's owned by the Natural History Museum London, and it originates, the competition actually has 48,000 pictures entered, and then this collection here in the exhibition is being whittled down by the esteemed jury to their finest and best 100.
So they do all look absolutely phenomenal. As an amateur photographer, everybody is with their phones these days, but you can't get this sort of picture with a mobile phone, can you?
Well,
can you?
If you go out there with your mobile phone, yes, you can, because the technology of mobile phones nowadays is really good.
Some amazing stuff that you see.
And the competition is very much open to anyone, amateurs, professionals, and this exhibition has a lot of amateurs in it as well. So, anyone can win the competition.
So I suppose 55 years ago, it pretty much started out in black and white. It was on real film at the time, and now we're in the digital age. You say it could be phones, it could be some of the top-end digital cameras that are being used to take these pictures. Yeah. And the stunning detail is you walk round is what really does impress. I mean, just behind us, two pictures here. We have the odd couple, which is that's very much insect-based. That I'm going to guess is an ant.
It is an ant. And this is these three pictures actually are part of a 6-image portfolio, and they are all taken in the Ecuadorian rainforest. Yeah. And the photographer is actually a biologist himself, and he just does invertebrates, insects, and it's all macro photography. So like you were saying, now with cameras and the technology, the detail, look at the sharpness of the eye. It almost feels like you're looking through the window. And
with the way these are backlit as well, the way that they're printed, this really brings these pictures to life as well.
Absolutely. This isn't like any other photography exhibition that, are just prints on the wall in frames. These are all printed on special transparency material that you can only see when you mount them onto a light box. So the light is coming through. The gallery is dark, so there's no other lighting apart from the images. And there's just wonderful music in the background, and you really transport and get immersed into the sort of the wildlife photography of the year experience when you come in here. I love it.
Yeah, and here we have a bee on guard. There's an interesting view here. A bee at the top, and I'm going to guess that they could be lunged down the bottom. Who are they?
No, that's not. This is. I'm glad you picked this picture because this is my ultimate favourite in the whole collection. I remember it in the judging room. It really popped out. I've never seen anything like it before. It's actually a bee protecting the tree hopper nymphs.
So there's some nymphs involved. I thought they'd be nymphs.
Little babies, but not bee babies.
Okay.
And it's behaviour that's never been seen before. But I've seen so many pictures of bees, but never like this with the rainbow effect from its wings.
Yeah, a true action shot taking place there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And there are ultimate winners across the competition. You need to come down to see exactly who has won. We're not going to give anything away now, but I have seen the winning photo, and again, absolutely phenomenal stuff.
Oh, incredible. How the jury select just one winner, how they select just 100 pictures from the 45,000 is such an amazing process. But what they do, we award all the categories, and then all the category winners are then the contenders for the 2 grand title winners, for the Wildlife Photographer of the Year and then the Young Wildlife Photographer of the Year. So from those category winners, that's how they choose their ultimate grand title winner. And it's quite a process, and it has to really stand out, and what the judges are looking for is originality. That's the main thing. Obviously creativity and innovation, and technical excellence. But if you imagine looking at 40,000 pictures, and one after the other, something original and amazing and surprising is the one that will stop them in their tracks.
Yeah, so as they're working their way through these, and they're delivered in all sorts of formats, I suppose. So some will be on paper, some will be digital. And
no, it's all digital now.
Digital now,
digital. I mean, like you said, 55 years ago, it was film and slides, and everything was slides. When I first started on the competition almost 20 years ago, my office was covered in postal sacks of all the slides and the entries. Now it's all digital online. We switched digital about 2004, and by 2006 we were completely digital.
Yeah, well, I'd say an amazing exhibition. We've seen one of your favourites here. I'm sure people will choose their own favourites.
Absolutely, it's so subjective.
But equally, there are video installations as well as part of the exhibition.
There is, it's the People's Choice Award, which is a further 25 images are selected after this 100, and then they're put to the public to vote for their favourite, and that's shown in the gallery, and then the winners will be announced in February by the Natural History Museum in London.
So that's something to look out for in the early part of 2020, and the Natural History Museum, a big part of this, obviously, and is it been known for these then to appear in an ongoing exhibition down there? Are the winners from over the years also displayed?
Yes. The exhibition tours the UK to many venues and abroad, so this exhibition does travel and get seen by millions of people, which is great to put the photographers, the amazing, passionate nature photographers' critical work, to give a platform to a window into the natural world today.
Yeah.
Their stories are incredible.
Yeah, and things you just couldn't hope to see in your own backyard, but equally things that you may well see in your backyard in a different way to which you would normally see them.
Yeah, there's a bit of both. There's a bit of, oh my God, I'd never see that. Or there's also, pictures of kingfishers, owls, squirrels in here that are in your backyard and, taken by photographers from their backyard. And especially the young wildlife photography. Oh, you've got to go and see that. That is just amazing.
Next on my list to do, how much is it to come down and see the exhibition?
Here in Wolverhampton, it's £5.50 for adults.
You can check it out on the gallery's pages on Facebook and also online. But where can they go online to find out more about the whole competition itself?
WildlifePhotographyTheYear.com will have all the competition and exhibition and touring details. Also, if you fall in love with the picture and want the print or even the book has even more caption information than you see in the exhibition. So I highly recommend that. And also, if you want to take part in the next competition, you also have great pictures. And I say anyone can enter. I really mean that. The next competition opens for entries on the 21st of October and closes on the 13th of December this year.
So come along, check it out at Wolverhampton Art Gallery, be inspired, and then get involved yourself.
Absolutely.
Gemma Ward, manager of the Wildlife Photography of the Year competition, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone enjoys this as much as I do.
questions are scattered like birdseed across my front lawn. You speak for a nation of enquiring minds and tedious brawn. You feel for my loss, what of course must be a difficult time. Well, I could shoulder perhaps a portion of blame. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. I can remember a time we both lived off my charm. I welcomed you into my world with a wink and more open than arms. I've given you everything I can give, now the well is run dry. You know that I'll keep the curtains half drawn all the same. You should be ashamed. Tonight you'll get self-righteous about the burden that you carry. You say that you've a job to do. Well, I've someone to bury. Breakfast is broken, somebody mutters so young. A shake of the head, a turn of the page, and they're done. Well, I've been replaced by a less ravaged face and a less jaded smile. As you slide another award into a gilded frame, you should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. There's no one to blame. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. Should be ashamed. There's no one to blame. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.
That's Ist, and you should be ashamed here on the Milk Bar. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 523. Back with episode 524 next week. I'll see you then. Ta-ra for now.
Goodbye from the milk bar. 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 Yeah. Goodbye from the milk bar.